All right, and welcome to the next edition of Investor Circle. And here we have Henrique all the way live from Lisbon. Wonderful to have you here, mate. Thanks for doing this. Please tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing and Draper Startup House.
Sure. Thank you for having us too. It's really awesome to be here with you. Since my entrepreneurship journey started also in your events, I love doing this type of stuff with Canopy and with you specifically. But yeah, my name is Henrique. Yeah, I work for Draper Startup House. Draper Startup House is not only a venture fund or a micro VC, as you're going to know a little bit more about the fund, but we also do other stuff. So we actually started by being a network of co-living spaces for founders and entrepreneurs. So basically, if you were traveling the world as a founder and you wanted to be in a place where you could meet other founders, investors, like-minded people, you could come to a Draper Startup House. So that started in Asia. We rapidly grew for 5 countries in Asia, including India, the Philippines as well. And right now we have 25 spaces in 25 cities around the world. And now this can be co-living or co-working spaces. So that's one side of the business. As we were meeting a lot of founders and startups throughout these spaces, we then created a micro VC for early stage founders. So basically to help this community of startups that were working with us, and we are giving them smart money. We call them smart money, which is basically small tickets for them to start their endeavor as a startup founder. In a nutshell, Draper Startup House is a network of spaces for entrepreneurs and founders. We have a venture fund. We also run acceleration programs. And that's something that I'm really focused right now, actually, in Europe, is running the acceleration programs for early stage startups. So right now we are running 2 types of programs, one more short term and one more long term. And all of these things actually align, and we have a synergy around these 3 pillars in our business, which is the hospitality, the education, and the investment. Because if we collect the founders in the hospitality, we get to know them, then we can know which type of help and assistance they need, and then they can go to our programs, or maybe we can invest in them directly if they are investment ready. So it's a really cool ecosystem, and it's global, which I like.
And do you find people move between the different places? So
yes.
You get somebody in India that turns up in Lisbon, and how does it work?
Yes, that actually happens a lot. So I get a lot of contacts of people that stay in India, in Singapore, in our spaces, that they really like the ecosystem there. The whole environment of the house was amazing for them. And they just, actually we have both people that were already traveling to Portugal, and I stayed in the Draper Startup House. I will connect with the founder there and see if I can pass by or even sleep there. And we have the other type of people that actually go to our website and decide their next destination based on where's Draper Startup Houses around the world. So those the hardcore Drapers, I would say. But yes.
And what's the pitch level for this? Is this like frat house stuff? Is this like hostel stuff? Is this like boutique hotel stuff? Where does it sit?
Yeah, so I would say that in every country there's a different value proposition, also because of the target. So for example, in our space in Bali, it's very digital nomad oriented, and also remote workers, and of course startup founders. But you would get a really chilled vibe, like a co-living or a hostel like Celine or something like that. While in Singapore, it would be a little bit more, I would say, serious, because a lot of the trips are more like 2-3 weeks to find investment or go to a specific event or something like that. But I would say never high price. So we are not a boutique hotel or something like that. In Lisbon, for example, we were a hostel with private rooms. So we tried to get the private room. So of course, we know there are people that prefer that privacy. We also had some shared rooms as well, but affordable prices. So I would say more into like a top-notch hostel, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, maybe you can explain a little bit more about the thesis of the fund, but it sounds like knowing the entrepreneur is a key part of it, right? You're getting to know people, and they're moving around between places where you've got this kind of footprint of understanding. But how does it work?
Yeah, so the thesis of our fund, it's a really broad thesis actually, because First, we are a global remote fund. So that's already, we don't have a specific region or country that we invest on. We try to invest in globally, basically. And what allows that is the fact that we have these spaces around the world. So we have touch points around the globe, which help us have access to vetted deals. So that's the first thing. We have Henriques everywhere, basically going to events.
There's only one Henrique. I know that. Sure. There's only one Henrique.
Going to events, screening deals, having these acceleration programs as well. So that's the way we find the startups, as I mentioned a little bit before. So agnostic or not binded to one region. We call ourselves the global remote micro VC. Also agnostic in sector. So we don't have one specific sector that we invest in. Of course, we focus on growth in the industries and sectors that are kind of booming. So, for example, we got 23 investments in this first fund, and we see a tendency for blockchain, adtech, healthcare, fintech, but also, as I was saying, agnostic in sector. We are a micro VC, so really early stage pre-seed funds. We do tickets from 25K to 150K, but I would say our sweet spot is on the 50K tickets. Okay. So really,
is that dollars, euros, shekels?
Dollars,
what is
dollars,
it?
Dollars.
Okay.
So small tickets for idea early stage startups. When we look into a company, and now the thesis is more first meeting the founders. So the knowing the founders is really important for us, and we are able to do that with all of these ecosystem that I mentioned before. Second, as I said, growth industry. So it has to be in an industry that we think that will give us a return on investment in the future, of course. And the third, and this is an important one, it's a proof of concept. We call it traction, but don't get it as traction, because we know that we are talking about early stage startups. So we are not expecting like huge numbers in revenue or even clients. But when you say traction, it can be a proof of concept, can be pilots, can be 1 or 2 initial clients, so that we know that you have an MVP in place, that you have a problem that needs to be solved. So you have these first or 2 clients, that you are building partnerships. So it's that type of traction that we are looking for.
So proof points,
exactly.
early stage proof points. Okay.
Exactly. So I would say that so an MVP in place, it's a little bit something that we look for as well. So we try to basically connect all of these dots, being connected to our ecosystem, being in an industry that we like, and then having this first MVP in place. And that's a little bit the thesis of our fund. I know it's a little bit broad, but also as we are working with different spaces, a lot of startup founders, acceleration programs that are not binded to a sector as well, we also try to be broad with these first tickets. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, every investor is different, every fund's different in terms of the way it wants to participate after the investment. So what's the Draper Startup House approach? Do you guys jump into a board? Do you give guidance? Do you observe? Do you take data? What do you do? Yeah,
usually we don't jump into a board, since we have also our ticket. Like, we have a lot of investments. So for example, in this first fund, it's a micro VC, it's a $2 million fund with 1 LP. So really small funds, and we 23 investments in 1.5 years. That's a high amount of investments. We don't have the bandwidth or the personnel to be on the board, or even helping in that level the startups. What we do with all of the startups, we try to use our strengths to help them. And what's our strength? It's our network. It's the connection that we have. We are inside, I didn't mention this, but we are inside a venture network of 24 funds called the Draper Venture Network, basically. And being inside this network, we can connect the startup to other investors for follow-on investments as well. By being this international network, we can connect them with a lot of partners, potential clients, mentoring, personnel that can help them in their journey as well. And of course, being connected with Team Draper, you also get access to some companies and to some personas that can help you in your journey. So I would say that our role as investors, we don't invest and run. No, we invest and try to be there, and also be following up with you to see what you need, and we try to help you with what you need. And that's mainly, and we see the experience with our startups. It's connections, it's mentoring as well, and it's trying to find the right partners and the right first clients, big clients for you. And we do that, but we don't have a seat on the board, also because our deals are spread out throughout the globe. So it's also difficult for us to be super involved and present in one specific deal.
Okay, super cool. I mean, you must have such a lens looking at so many different things at any one time. I don't know how you process it. I mean, for people who don't know you at all, what's your background? What makes you great at this stuff?
Sure. Actually, so my background is business administration. That was my bachelor. Super broad as well.
Right? You were Catholic.
Yeah. It was in Catholic in Lisbon. So broad as well, because when I was in my high school senior year, I didn't know what to do. So it was that common problem of a teenager, that I don't know what you do in a company as well, because I didn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, and those are the ones that you kind of know what they do. On the business side, I don't know, maybe, of course, I did an internship in a consultancy company, and you kind of know what they do on the audit side or the consultancy side. But yeah, when I was 18, I never thought about going to entrepreneurship or startup. So my master's was actually in innovation in the Netherlands. So that was I was narrowing it down. So because I already knew I wanted to be in part with the innovation part of stuff, and kind of things that move the world. But actually the master itself was really theoretical. So a lot of articles, hypotheses. So I was more expecting like working with companies and innovations, and it wasn't that at all, but actually gave me a lot of not only strengths, but also some expertise on some fields that I was not expecting. And I think that kind of shaped a little bit the first path for me, of knowing that I wanted to be involved with innovation and companies that were disruptive, because we studied a lot the continuous innovation and the disruptive one. So for example, the move to iPhone, and then the continuous would be iPhone 2 and iPhone 3. So the interest by radical innovation started there. After that, I changed. So I didn't follow that path. I went to a sales company in San Francisco, a software sales company. That was really good for me, because I think to have the sales job as your first job is really good. Like you grow a lot, not only talking with clients, but reaching your quotas and being able to communicate not in your first language, because I'm Portuguese, and that was really good. And then, yes, I got into Draper Startup House after this sales job, actually because of a recommendation of a friend, because they were planning on opening a location in Portugal. We tried Theory. Prior Draper Startup House, we rebranded, was Tribe Theory. And then it's history. I opened the Portuguese location as the co-weaving space, so more focus on the operation side, on that part. Then we opened the VC fund, so working on operations and startup scouting. We were doing a lot of events, pitch days, mentoring sessions, so getting to know a lot of startups and founders as well. Then we opened the education part, so the acceleration programs, and that's where I am right now. 5 years later, it's more on the startup scouting and the acceleration programs in Europe. So that's a little bit of my background.
I remember our first meeting in Idea Spaces when everything was also very new for Draper in Lisbon and stuff, and it seems like a million years ago now, but of course there's a COVID in between, right? So we met just before that, and all the disruption that went. So I guess a question I should ask you at this point is like, what sort of things are you seeing come to you right now? Is everything AI? Is that the buzz that you're hearing, or is there other stuff in the world other than that right now?
Yeah. So on the pitch deck, so I'm gonna tell a little bit more about my recent experience. So we had an acceleration program 4 months ago, and we had a lot of applications where we would get the pitch decks, and AI is always there. Even if your company doesn't do AI, it's always there that they are powered by AI or they are solving something with AI. And we actually don't like that catchphrase because you can be an AI company, and that's awesome. But if your focus is not the AI side and you're just putting the AI there to be catchy for us, it's not basically. But a lot of things that I'm seeing, actually it's in the last one, a lot into the healthcare side, like a lot of companies trying to solve mental health problems and issues, being that with making more accessible the contact with doctors, having a app with AI that does this following. A really interesting one actually was the one that kind of won our acceleration program 5 months ago and went to the United States to do the follow-on acceleration with Draper University in Silicon Valley. Was a journaling app, and that one is using AI and large language models. A journaling app, so journaling, a diary that you write every day, and the AI would actually study you and seeing like, maybe Henrique, you are facing like a burnout because you are following this, you are saying this and this and this, and the last 3 months you are more mentioning this, so maybe book an appointment here. So but basically analyze what you're saying and give recommendations about it. So that was cool. A lot of education platforms as well. I think that came with COVID. So a lot of the remote thing, of having education accessible to not only to everyone, but in platforms or at the distance. So we are still getting a lot of those startups. And actually, as we are a very education oriented company, we actually invest a lot on NetTech startups. So that's the majority of our percentage of our portfolio is at tech startups, because that's also a field that we feel that we can help with, because a lot of the people in our company or build a startup in that field or we are a startup in that field as well. So we kind of can help them with that as well. But also, of course, a lot of AI startups, AI to write articles or soccer news. We have one of that as well. And marketplaces, they are still out there. And we actually had the second place was a marketplace to find specifically for restaurants in Portugal, because that's a problem to find waiters, chefs. So they are a marketplace specifically for that, and they are actually doing a lot of partnerships. And after our program, they found their first clients, and they are up and going right now, super smoothly. So some marketplaces as well.
Amazing. You cover such ground. Like, it's just incredible how many different things you're talking about there in one little segment. Just before I get to the last question of today's stuff, I wanted to say thank you so much for the reverse pitches you've done at the Canopy events. I don't know how you feel about them, actually. It's a good thing to get out there, but for me, like, the stuff you've presented has been so good. But how does it feel to do this kind of reverse pitch stuff?
It's super cool because I'm always on the other side. So even if I'm a judge on a pitch session or just on the other side of the classes or listening to the entrepreneurs, I'm always on the other side, and actually like also to present. It's something that I've been liking doing in the last years. So I really like to be on the founder side and actually presenting. It's not my company, but I kind of see it as my company as well. So I really like to be on the other side and try to expose how can I help the community, because that's something that we have. And I think you feel that in Portugal and in Lisbon, the ecosystem is super collaborative and not competitive. So we always try to do these events and pitch sessions to help not only the startup founders, but even people that maybe they don't have a startup now, but they are thinking about it, or even investors, and try to get this community together. And yeah, I love to be on the other side, because then it's so much easier for the interactions, because people already know what I do, because it's not that easy to explain that you are a fund with a hostel with a university, so it takes time to do
it's not a straight line story, right?
Exactly. So it takes time in a networking event to like explain to you what I do, and then we can see the synergies there. So it's much easier if I do a reverse pitch, and then we have the networking session with the pizza, the canopy ones, and then people approach me because they exactly know what I do and how can I help them. So that makes it easier. So yeah, in a nutshell, I love doing the reverse pitches. Yeah.
And it's fun because, you know, many of the reverse pitches are really ugly, partly because the investors aren't used to giving these kind of things, but you always make it look real good, brother. They always come off really well. Thanks for that. So the final question today, though, just, you know, you see so much, and particularly early stage ideas. I just wonder if you could share with people what your top tip is for a first-time founder watching this today who's going to be raising funds for the first time, maybe coming to a micro VC like Draper.
Yeah.
What advice do you give them?
So that's a very common question, and my answer changed, and I can be honest about it. It changed when I went to the education part, so the acceleration part. So my top, I will give one or two, but my top advice would be to focus on your core value proposition. So a lot of the founders that come through our programs, they think, or they try to solve the world's problems, or they think that by telling us that they want to serve a huge market, they are actually like, it's more interesting for us because there are more clients there. So I'll give a really practical example. A startup that had an app to solve mental health problems. And which problems do they want to solve? And they said all of them, because they think if we solve all of the problems, we have much more clients to serve, and it's even better. So it's burnout, it's schizophrenia, it's ADHD. Okay, perfect. And our advice is only focus on one. So focus on burnout now. Be really specific on that. Study your value proposition for burnout, see your Temsam SOM, and focus on that, because then to find your ideal customer will be easier. The partnerships there to really be good on something, and then you can do burnout and ADHD, and then you can do burnout, ADHD, and something else. But excel in something niche to start, because it will be much easier to find your first customers, iterate with them. So that aligns with the second thing, which is validating your idea. So startup founders a lot of times do that, being a solo founder or with a co-founder. They get super in depth with their idea because it's their baby. So they just work on their idea and think about it because they think they know better. So they don't talk with potential customers and that get that feedback loop from the customers, which is really important. And the first initial customers, because you need to understand who's going to buy your product or service. So the other thing that I would say, the first, of course, it's narrow it down. Don't try to go too big. Narrow it down to a core value proposition and try to excel in it. And then, of course, if you are successful, you can expand. And the second one is to validate your idea with potential customers. Initial, like that, the initial customers are really important. And there's always a story that I tell that I heard in a podcast of Airbnb, that they usually went to the house owners, the first house owners in San Francisco, and asked for feedback. What were they doing well? What they think they could do better? And there was actually a client, so a house owner, that had a Bible, like an Airbnb Bible, with a lot of recommendations, and think that because he was super into the idea. And there are actually a lot of things that are in their platform now that came from that client. So a lot of times clients, your initial customers, they know what the product needs or something like that. So listen to your initial customers, iterate with them, and get that feedback loop. And the last one would be seek for mentorship and advice. I think that's important. There are a lot of good mentors out there, and if it can be a startup owner, it could be an investor, but people that gives you different perspectives. Because maybe some of them already went through the roadblocks and the pain points that you are going. Maybe some of them have a different perspective that gets you out of the tunnel vision that you are going right now. And we see that a lot in our programs. And I'm not saying we as a mentors, because we always call different people to be mentors. And that's the third thing. And having a mentor or seeking for advice, it doesn't make you weaker as a founder, it only makes you stronger. So I would focus on these three: narrow it down, validate your business idea, and seek for advice. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I guess we call that a wrap on today's interview, but thank you for sharing all your thoughts and insights, particularly with the spectrum of things you're seeing. That's incredibly valuable to everybody. Appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you for Web Summit, and next time I'm in Lisbon. That'd be fantastic.
Thank you so much, Sue. Yeah, it flew by this time. It was a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm really excited to see you in person.